one of the most important things about bimodal IT is really this outside-in approach. So philosophically, what that means is really putting the customer at the center of what you're doing. So typically it starts with research to understand what the customer needs, and then aligning business goals to those customer needs, and then building solutions that actually solve customer-centric problems. So philosophically, that's what it is. Let's dig into it a little bit more.
Sure. Bimodal IT, you may have heard it called two-speed IT, but regardless of whatever name it goes by, it's a pretty simple concept to understand. A traditional Mode 1 IT organization is built on certain guiding principles, right? They need to have a very traditional command and control hierarchy. They need that rigid structure for stability and to mitigate risk.
Mode 2 is all about being exploratory and entrepreneurial. So it's really the idea that you have to have a different way of thinking about business than in this traditional kind of way. So I'll highlight 3 different concepts. So concept 1 is all about innovation. So one of the classic examples nowadays around innovation is Uber, right? So the traditional taxi cab companies got disrupted by this new technology that Uber have, and they are now fighting back and trying to stay relevant. So I think innovation is really key here. When you're trying to do innovative things, you got to have a different way of thinking. Concept number 2 is around agility. It's not just about an individual development team practicing Scrum or Kanban. It's really about this organizational alignment around this new way of thinking. The third and last one I'll highlight here is just speed. So if you've ever worked in a product development group and you've been working on a new thing that you want to get out in the world, and halfway through the delivery of that, the market shifts. And by the end of it, that means you've released a product, theoretically, that doesn't solve a market problem anymore.
So let's shift gears and talk about MWI and the changes that they're going through right now. MWI is a $4 billion animal health and veterinary supply company. Their customers are the ones who actually take care of animals. Whether it's household pets or livestock, chances are pretty good that somebody who's providing an animal's care deals with MWI on a regular basis. MWI has realized that its customer experience has to change if they're going to grow their business. All right, so let me set the stage for you guys a little bit. We started working with MWI about this time last year. Back then they were operating 10 or 12 different customer-facing websites, and I think 4 or 5 of those were digital storefronts. So depending on what type of product a customer needs would depend on what type of website, which storefront that they visited. On top of that, they offer more than 30,000 products. And of those 30,000, any customer probably regularly buys around 2,000 of those products for their day-to-day operations. So finding product fast is a real challenge. There is the digital storefront experience, but a lot of times these vets are in a rush, or the techs are in a rush. They need something shipped for the next day's surgery. They call up their rep and place the order over the phone. We've got the customer's online store experience on one hand, and then we've got the rep's order entry and customer service platform tool on the other. The amount of information that's available is staggering, right? And all the data is coming from the same back-end place. So you've got the ERP system, the CMS system, the search engine. It's all pushing stuff to these users. And so that's what we asked ourselves: how do we make sense of all that data? How do we organize it in a meaningful way and present it to 2 very different sets of users? Because both need to access that complex information, and they need to do so very quickly, but they also need to use that information in very different ways and using very different workflows. So we started by taking the outside-in approach that Brent was talking about earlier. I think we've sat down with over 50 of their customers now. We've probably got about 100 hours of table time sitting across talking with them, and that kind of insight has been spectacular. It's guided everything that we've done since. So we take that feedback that we're getting, and then we put designs, we incorporate the feedback into designs and prototypes, then we put those back in front of the customers again. The point is, I think you take the customer insight, you use it to drive your design and development teams who can move with agility, and without even knowing it, you've begun to kind of evolve this sophisticated Mode 2 organization inside the confines of the traditional Mode 1 org.
When we got into the workshop, we kind of level set a little bit. So all the insights work that were done were brought together, as well as some capabilities. And we have to figure out, well, what are we going to do over the next 10 to 12 weeks? And how do we take these capabilities that we figured out and break them down into meaningful things that the guys there with their arms crossed can actually can build. And the team's been kind of learning as they go. I would say there's definitely a flow that's happened. You know, as people have been working together long enough, they kind of know how other people work. And at the end of that, I think there's some really good tangible results.
Let's take a look at some of those results. MWI has been putting these bimodal and agile best practices into place, and it's pretty awesome to step back from it and see what's come of that. So first off, our Scrum teams have learned how to fail, which sounds weird, but they've learned actually how to fail fast, right? And that's something that I think it's easy for us to sit here and talk about, but it's a lot harder to put into practice. We've got amazing back-end developers who understand our front-end consumption needs, so they can actually retrieve and deliver meaningful data to the front-end developers. That's exciting. We've got incredible front-end developers who understand the realities and the complexities of the data that's coming from the tech stack upstream. We've got a framework in place that we can iterate on for future product development endeavors. We've got a team with a newfound confidence and this UX-driven sense of purpose that they're using, that they have the skills to back up. And we've got our partnership, I think, is in this rock-solid place, and it's rooted in the voice of the customer. Those are some of the massive changes that we're seeing at MWI over the past year. It's actually been a lot of fun in preparing for this. It's kind of stepping back and seeing what's been accomplished over that time. The transformational nature of those experiences has been really exciting. So in the agency world, we often talk about unicorns. Great clients are unicorns, right? They're these mythical creatures that we're lucky if they come along once in our lifetime. But what we've realized is this isn't really mythology. It's just trust. It's trusting your partnerships, and in the end, being able to transform an organization and build great product.